welcome everybody to the inaugural episode, our first ever episode of the VHS Vault. I'm Jason. That's Jason, other side. And we welcome you to the show. Now, before we start the show, we're going to do what every other YouTube does and just a little bit of a plug. If you could do us a massive favor and you like what you see today, could you please give us a like? It's a free click for you, but it means a lot for us in building this little show that we're doing. Okay,
and please
Jace.
subscribe. For every subscription that you give us, we will save a kitten. I don't know, maybe.
No, we will. We love kittens. So,
yes.
But anyway,
if all right. Now, what is this show about? I will save it.
What is this show about? What's the VHS Vault? Both us Generation X's here spent a lot of time in our youth in video shops, I would say, trolling up and down the aisles, trying to find the film. And so this is a show where we're going to go back to that area, and that's the 70s, 80s, and a little bit of the 90s. And we'll start to look back at films that we meant something to us in that generation. And considering we're two Jasons, it is perfect, I believe, for us to start with this movie this week. And that is Friday the 13th, the first movie. But we're not doing it alone.
Ice Cube in this movie, it's just great.
Well, we're not doing it alone. We've got a special guest, as we will every week. And so may I introduce you all to our guest for this evening, and that is Joe.
What's up, everybody? Normally
welcome,
I'm a
Joe.
captain, but today I'm cha-cha-cha.
Mate, you ain't no captain here, mate. You're a victim of the Voorhees.
That's right. That's right.
You are.
I'm probably the first to go because I'm multiracial. And
I
love laying with the ladies, so
yeah, well, good luck with that, buddy. All right,
I need to drink some bleach to get that image out of my head.
In my eyes. Anyway, let's get into the first.
I'm regretting this already.
First segment. Background info. Now, let's have a talk about this film, Friday the 13th. Now, our memories today, Jason, are this is an iconic slasher film. That's what we know it of today. But it didn't always start out like that. What do you know, before I get into some of the tidbits I know, what are your memories about some of the background info about this film and how they made it?
Well, I know it was made very, 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 very cheaply.
Was it low budget? Very low.
It had a $550,000 budget, to be correct.
Yes.
Wow.
I mean, it was so
that's a coffee budget in Avatar.
It was done so cheap that they honestly cast Betsy Palmer in the movie because she could drive herself to the set.
Yes.
That's how cheap it was.
Yeah, and then what you're bringing up is Betsy Palmer, who plays the deliciously evil Mrs. Voorhees.
Pamela.
Right here.
Pamela Voorhees.
Was a Broadway actor. You know, had done some bits and pieces over the years, but primarily in that stage of her career was in the theatre. And she had a nice car that broke down. Her agent rings her and says, look, there's this script that's come for a horror film. And she went, I need a new car. And boom, they booked her.
That's right. So, which is the movie crazy. At first either. She, as I recall, she read the script and then called it, and I don't swear on the internet. No, nobody does that. She called it a gigantic piece of fecal matter.
Yeah. Yes. Us Aussies would say piece of shit. So I can say that because I'm an Aussie. All right, yeah, it was. But now let's have a look at the makers of this film. This film was directed and produced by someone called Sean S. Cunningham. Now, at that time, on Happy Days. Yeah, not Richie Cunningham, Sean S. Cunningham.
Opie.
Yeah, not Opie. So this guy, now what his background was, is he had made a horror film with Wes Craven called Last House on the Left.
Which is a great film.
Which is an RAPE revenge fantasy film.
Right.
And essentially, he had made this horror film with Wes Craven, didn't really make a lot of money, but it helped him make a couple of little family films. Then 1979 came around, and a little movie called Halloween hit the screens and was cleaning up on the box office in 1979. So as a business person that Sean S. Cunningham says, we got to get in on some of that. And he had a title in his head. He didn't have an idea for a film, but he had a title in his head, which was Friday the 13th. Didn't know what the movie was going to be about, but he had the title. And he took out a full-page ad. Did you ever hear about that, Jace? Where he took out a full-page ad with the logo of Friday the 13th to promote a film he hadn't even written one word of yet.
Wow, it's like he's DC.
Yes. And on the header of that poster that he put up in the trades was the most terrifying movie you'll ever see. Like, talk about putting your balls on the line here, aren't you?
Yeah.
You're selling this film and this concept, and you haven't even written a script.
Again, it's like DC.
It's like DC. But eventually he hired a script writer and they wrote the script. Now, a lot of people make comparisons to Halloween for this film. Do you think that's a fair statement, guys? A lot of people
absolutely. It was the blueprint for all slashers, including this one.
Yeah, this movie would not exist without Halloween making bank. I mean, that's just how it is. This and every other slasher movie in the 80s.
Even Halloween wasn't the first ever slasher movie.
No, that was Psycho.
Popularized it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could mark an argument.
Arguably Psycho.
It's Psycho.
Very arguable.
Is it?
No, it's not.
It's more of a psychological thriller than a slasher.
He stabbed the hell out of her.
Similarities with Psycho, except they flipped it. Rather than having the son portraying the mum, in a way, you've got a psychological flip with the mum playing out that son fantasy in her head.
Interesting.
Similarities.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. It's a film that, and we'll talk about it when we kind of rewatched it. It's a film by design is all about jump scares. When they wrote this film, it is one jump scare after another. Now, with that, it was a genius move because when people went and when they made this film and when they went and saw this film, the audiences lost their mind. Yeah. There are reports of people running out of the cinema screaming, throwing up, all that kind of wonderful stuff. So this movie made an impact, made a massive impact, and ended up with a $550,000 budget, making $58 million.
And that's back in the 80s, so that's like a couple of billion now.
Well, your return on investment is massive.
It's massive. Yeah, absolutely.
But what makes this movie so special, I think, in my mind, is I can't think of an example of any other franchise where the initial movie doesn't contain the star of the franchise. Yes. It does, but not in the way that we know him.
Right.
So
that's one of a kind.
Yeah. How did you guys, would you remember the first time?
I'll never forget my first time.
Okay.
I'm sorry, you're going to make me sick again.
Yeah, about the movie, Joe.
No, I know, that's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about.
Okay.
No, the first time I saw this, so my uncle had the only big TV in the house, and he had a series of VHSs that were labeled with his writing. He has a nice penmanship. And Friday the 13th, and I'm thinking, 13, maybe this is something to do with Sesame Street, because I was very young at the time.
What?
Yeah.
Today's episode is brought to you by the letters key, ma.
Today we're talking about murder.
Yeah, M is for murder. So I popped that bad.
3 victims.
Yeah, I popped that bad boy in his giant. No, so like there were different tiers of VHS players. I don't know how it was in Australia, but here you had like the one where they had the center console, and then it would like rise from the whole big box instead of the one that you fed in.
Oh yeah, well that's the pop-up trays.
Yeah, the pop-up tray
we had.
Yeah. So I'm thinking, okay, this is gonna be amazing. So I put it in there and I close it, and I'm like 8 or 9 at the time, and I push play, and I'm like confused at first because it's like, well, there's no Muppets here. And I just keep going. And what was cool is my uncle, what he did was he taped this off of, I think it was like on television on like Cinemax or something like that.
Okay.
And right after that movie was A Nightmare on Elm Street. So I had like a double feature of horror unknowingly. And that was my first actual dive into horror at the same time. So I always have a soft spot in my heart for this. because it was my first. Yeah.
How old were you when you just said you saw it?
8 or 9, maybe.
Oh, wow. Sounds about right. How about you, Jace? When was your first memory of seeing this film?
You know, quite honestly, I feel like this is a movie that I saw at such a young age that I don't even remember how old I was. The only thing that I remember, or the earliest thing that I can remember, is that my grandmother had a cabin at a Lake Colorado City here in Texas. And I wouldn't get in the water because I thought that Jason was going to jump out and drag me into the water.
Yeah.
And, you know, every time I got in the boat, I'd scream, "No!" My parents were super irresponsible and let me watch anything I wanted to whenever I was younger. So
that was the beautiful thing about it.
I had seen Friday the 13th. I had seen the Amityville Horror. I had seen Poltergeist. I'd seen all these movies, I think, before I could even walk. And
fun fact, my family, and you can ask Space Mom, we lived in Amityville.
Just reference, guys, Space Mum is reference to Joe's mother.
Yep.
If you watch the channel, that might kind of make sense.
Yeah. If not,
you don't. That's what he means.
Watch the other stuff too. But they lived a block away from that disaster, and that during when it happened, it was literally real time on the news. Like, hey, wait a minute, that neighborhood looks familiar. Wait a minute, that's around the block. So,
what do you mean they left? He still owes me $20.
Yeah, it was wild times in New York.
Well, when I saw this film the first time, I remember specifically being with my older brothers at a video store. So I remember this cover.
Oh, wow.
That's how, and my memory of
that's
that
a
film.
Good find too, man. Cool.
Of course, because I'm an internet ninja, mate. I don't find anything else. You should know that by now.
Yeah.
Either way, that was the VHS cover that stuck out to me. Yeah. So I remember grabbing it, not being particularly interested because what was on the cover, but I do remember being slot in the top-down VCR at home with my brothers who were a bit older than me, who were fixated on me watching it and basically pinned me down to the couch watching it. Now, my older brothers at the time, they think they were being, funny. It's going to scare the crap out of Jace. He'll be running to mum screaming. Well, guess what? They didn't realize their little brother was a freak. And I did. And I remember even being like, come and watch it again. We'll come and watch it again.
Wow.
And
about how old were you again?
1980, I was 7.
Oh,
7.
Wow.
So we got this probably later in 1980, maybe 7 or 8 at top. So around the same age, but I was in. And like Jason, being a Generation X child, our parents didn't care back then. We got to do anything we wanted, especially films. You were talking about some of the films that you saw in the 80s and appropriate. Same thing. I saw The Exorcist at 5.
Oh, that was the one movie I hadn't seen until I became an adult because I could never find it and never got around to it.
My parents.
So that was my first memory. The memory was so impactful. This film created an obsession with horror.
Oh, wow. Cool.
From this film particularly, that was my favorite genre at those ages, to go to the video shop. I didn't go to the cartoon section or the anime or the drama section, comedy. I always went straight for horror.
Same.
It's exactly what it was, because it's the thing about this film, especially the first time you watch it, is the jump scares get you, especially in that time. Because you got to remember, Friday the 13th back then, jump scares were in movies, but not to the amount as they threw them in this film. You know? And it was just one after the other. And, it was titillating for a young child too, because you get to see, there's people having sex, you don't quite figure it out, but what I love was in the movie as a young kid, it was teaching me good morals. If I'm a hoe, I'm going to get murdered by a psychopath.
Yeah, that's true. Keep it in your pants.
Keep myself pure, keep myself, don't do stupid things like walk out in the rain with just a pair of knickers on and a coat.
Yeah. Especially by the bow and arrow targets.
We'll get into that for sure.
Yeah.
No, I think it's fair to say it had a profound effect on you, Jace. It had a profound effect on me, and Jace, and the same on you, Joe, because we could all remember when we. Well, you could pseudo remember, Jason, but you and me, Joe, we remember.
I remember vividly, because
I can't say that about all the films I've seen.
just that whole like pushing the VHS tape down and expecting one thing and getting something else was like, oh, what's this?
Yeah.
Ever changed my life.
Absolutely.
And it's funny, like you said, jump scares, and they had taken that bit from Carrie, because of the end of Carrie, when you think it's all over, it's fresh and good, and all of a sudden the hand comes up and grabs in there, and they saw how well that did, and people kept going. And
and we'll get into that as we go about that particular bit and how they stole from that for the end of this film.
Yeah,
they did. They literally stole that concept, as everyone kind of does. If it works on screen, it's popular, you're going to steal the concept.
Yeah.
So now here comes the big bit. I have to rewatch it.
These are great.
I feel like we're on Stranger Things.
Yeah. Still idea. Hopper's in the next room. Now, we've gone back and rewatched it. Now, I rewatched this last night, and I know you guys rewatched it recently.
Yeah. Sunday.
How did it feel going back 42 years later and watching this film?
I'm going to have a very unpopular opinion. I honestly kind of think the movie's trash.
Not an
this is some. Opinion. I am a fan of these movies. Do not get me wrong. I'm a huge fan of Friday the 13th. But this first movie was trash.
It's very hard to watch. I don't know about you guys.
It's hard to watch. It's got some. You can tell that they did not put a lot of thought into exactly how the killer operates or continuity or anything, because my analytical brain is watching this movie saying, wait, no, what? No. How did she pin the guy to the door with arrows? She's a little old lady.
Yeah.
Well, let's get it. And that bit, that whole continuity problem starts fairly early on in this movie.
Yes,
because,
it does.
The when they go to the little, I was going to call it a cafe, but the little
it's
shop.
It's a diner, a little diner.
The diner, sorry.
Yeah.
We don't have diners in Australia.
We don't? So sorry.
No, we
how do you guys
call them dingo
How do we
dinners?
eat with boomerangs and eating raw kangaroo?
How do you eat pancakes specifically? How do you eat pancakes?
You cut them into the shape of boomerangs, you throw them, and you open your mouth waiting for them to come back.
I still believe that we're in 1886.
I didn't say that. I'm just saying.
Yeah, you do.
Diners have the best pancakes. That's what.
Yeah, whatever. Okay, this diner, the people suck in it. And I'll tell you why they suck, right?
I kept telling her, don't go there.
They're all about, the death stairs. But the whole conceit of the town, especially the truck driver that's in there, is, that's cursed. So literally, here's the deal. A kid drowned in 1957.
Yeah.
Right? And a couple gets killed in 1958. But the whole town's name says that place is cursed. Nothing's happened in 20 years. A couple of fires, apparently. But nothing happened in 20 years, but the whole town thinks it's cursed. Bit over the top.
Yeah, no, but
bit over the top with me.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I don't regret it, because we then get Creepy Carl. And Creepy Carl rocks in this movie.
Yeah.
Here's the Doomsdayer. And I love this guy, and I've got a picture of him here somewhere because he is just a man.
In many ways, Creepy Carl reminds me of a line from Sir Laurence Olivier. Yep. Sir Laurence Olivier was doing a show where he had a small part, and he played a butler. And this was a big murder mystery where, it had other big name stars in there. And somebody interviewed Sir Laurence Olivier and said, what is this play about? And Sir Laurence Olivier, where everybody was expecting him to say, it's about a man and a woman who comes to this castle and then there's a murder. No, he said, it's about a butler played by me. Creepy Carl, I do not know the name of the actor, but that actor.
Rest in peace, Creepy Carl.
Rest in peace, Creepy Carl. Creepy Carl actor believed the movie was about him.
Yeah.
And he's literally the best part of the movie.
Yeah.
Well, he comes back. So he believes it's his movie enough that he gets into the sequel. So
how long do you think he was standing in the pantry waiting for them to open the door?
That is my biggest question.
Was he in there
just like, Carl's rather patient.
I really have to pee, but I want to scare them.
And then he's walking out going, you're doomed if you hang around.
Doomed. You're also out of peas. I ate them all, and the dog food.
That food is out of date.
This has too much MSG in it. It's bad for you.
800 milligrams of sodium.
Your cholesterol is too high.
But that's interesting about that scene in particular, when he comes out and you've got Alice, who's the main girl. We'll get into the cast. But Alice takes a step back. Her friend comes walking in. And then the dude, I think it's Ned, comes walking in. But he takes one step forward, sees creepy Carl, and he takes one step back. He's ready to bolt.
Yeah.
He's ready to leave these chicks high and dry.
Good luck, ladies.
Yeah, it goes too far. But let's get into some of the cast of the group of teenagers in this crew. And it is basically the group of young teenagers who are camp counselors.
Yeah.
Going to do a summer job, of course, at Camp Crystal Lake. Now, this cast, this very young cast, of course, we can't go much further without mentioning the stars that came from this film, and that is, the Baconator.
The Baconator.
And I'm trying to find a picture of the Baconator. There he goes, because I've got two pictures of him. Look how young.
I know.
Yeah, you know what?
It's baby bacon.
He ages
Baby
well,
Bacon.
Though. He ages pretty well.
Baby Bacon had only been in one other film before this film and a TV show. Can you name the film, guys? It's a big film, massive comedy of 1978.
Animal House.
Correct.
Yes, I knew that.
Correct.
Yay.
Playing a smarmy little sorority guy. Remember?
Yeah.
Him?
It was, thank you, sir. May I have another?
Was he on the Facts of Life?
No, he may have been, but he was more known to be on one of your popular soaps over there, Another World.
What's a soap?
So this was sorry? Another World.
Another World.
I didn't even know the show, so if you're making any Another World references over this,
I never saw it.
Here's the a-holes from the cafe.
Yeah.
And I shouldn't really, because that truck driver, when he picks up that girl and takes he's trying to say, look, man, you really shouldn't be going there.
He was right.
He was right.
Yeah.
But over dramatic again, because nothing had really happened in 20 years. So where is the motivation to go, don't down there?
Okay, but think about it this way.
Conspiracy that Mrs. Voorhees, they knew about her.
Perhaps, but think about it this way. You're in a town with two Denny's. One Denny's, a guy got food poisoning and died 10 years ago. Would you go to that Denny's or would you go to the other Denny's?
The other Denny's.
Okay, there you go.
I don't think it would matter.
It's the same thing.
Later, if it was 10 days earlier, different story.
They've got to have new management by now.
Yeah,
exactly right.
Well, they have new management at They have new management at the camp.
Yeah,
and people are just like, oh, you don't want to go there. You know, a bunch of kids got killed. I'm sorry, a bunch of kids getting killed is kind of a big deal.
Yeah,
it is, but only two. Only two got killed.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, well, 3 by this point. Yeah, kid drowned, and then 2 others were stabbed a couple of years later. It's fine though. It's been 10 years.
They got Lysol. It's all good now.
Yeah. We held a seance. We brought in the people who we brought in the people who investigated Amityville. It's fine.
Yeah, not very good investigators. But now we mentioned about how it was hard to watch, right? And I found it very hard to rewatch.
Very much so.
And it is by design, those guys. It is by design why the panning shots are so slow, while we have so many shots of things just sticking in there. And the reason behind it, from an editorial standpoint, was they believed it was building tension. Everybody knew that they were going into a horror film, but they didn't know when and where. And so the editing team believed the more slower shots we had, the more kind of stillness we had, when the jump scares we delivered them, the bigger impact. Now, that doesn't work today because we know the film. Yeah. But it worked quite well back then.
Yeah.
So this film, I would say off the bat, is a one and done. Do you get maximum out of this film? It's watching it once, because you're never going to reach the highs and the love for the film as you would from your first time. It's not like it's got a long rewatchability factor for it, because it does degrade after you see it the second time.
Yeah.
My impression,
but yeah, that's the reason why, guys, it's so slow. It was on purpose. You know?
Now, my impression whenever I was watching it was it almost seemed like a series of skits. It really did. It almost seemed like a series of skits with these kids at this camp, almost like a sitcom. I almost expected a laugh track at certain times. And I'm sure you could put a laugh track into this movie and it would feel perfectly at home. But that was my big issue, is that it was a bunch of skits, and then at the end of most of the skits, the kids started getting killed off. Which is basically how I would like Saturday Night Live to end some nights, but it's just...
Well, shots fired before Saturday Night Live.
Yeah, right. Poor SNL. It's got enough problems. Well, I mean, technically right now...
that? Lauren Michaels?
Yeah, Lauren Michaels, yeah.
That was harsh.
You know what's funny? Like, that's already happening. So many people are quitting. It's like they're just falling off.
I don't know. Who gives a fuck about SNL? But essentially, coming back to sticking on this film, it was very disjointed. In fact, let's face it, there's 40 minutes of a movie here. If you trim that and cut it to today's standards, right? If you cut it to today's standards, maybe I'm being generous. Maybe it's a 30-minute film, if that. And there's a lot of filler into it. And the movie only kicks into gear is when Alice discovers the first body. That's when the film completely starts to kick into gear.
Right.
And from that, that's when we start seeing gaping holes in physics and logic, don't we?
Yeah.
Yes.
You mentioned the door. So I don't have the image of it. I'm too scared that we get demonetized from YouTube for showing it. But there is the scene of 2 arrows for a guy who has been lifted up. Now, that's a two-man job. All right? That's a two-man job.
Lifted up and pinned like a butterfly
to
the door, and they want us to believe that it was Mrs. Voorhees that did it.
Maybe there's a conspiracy. Maybe there's a conspiracy.
I have a theory that she had help,
yeah,
but
so do I.
Same, yeah.
Throw it out.
Well, my theory is that Jason was helping her.
Yeah, same. That's why
I think that her mind broke. She thought Jason drowned, but he was just not. He didn't drown. Maybe he ran away and came back a couple of years later, but she still thinks he's dead. So he's there, like pinning people to the to the wall like posters, and just like, that's my good boy, Jason. Thank you, Mama.
I think she's so psychotic. I think they're working in tandem together.
Well, it can only
because she was driven. Now, if we could spoil the last bit, he knows exactly who to get to finish the job at the end of this movie.
Yeah.
Yes.
How does he know that? If he's just some Aquaman. Because that's what they're implying to at the end of this movie.
Yeah, he was always in the lake. Now,
I was waiting for them to cut to the little crab singing Under the Sea.
Under the sea!
To see where Jason lives.
Don't go up there. It's too bloody. Trust me, everyone up there is dead.
I definitely buy into the theory that Jason was part of this.
Yeah.
And as the audience, we weren't revealed that to the end of it. Mind you, let's not give the writers that much credit. Because the end of this movie, which contains the heroine, Alice, who has just gone through horror. We're not finishing it. We'll backtrack to some of the kills. But she's just in a lake by herself. There's no logical reason why that scene happens. It's purely there.
But it's the best
scare
scene.
The audience one last time.
It's the best scene
in the movie, yeah.
It is the best scene. Yeah. I used to think the best scene in the movie was the struggle.
With the mom?
This particular scene here.
Yeah.
I now retract that statement because here's a fact for you. No stuntmen were hired for this film. And it showed.
Oh, it does.
Yeah.
It shows.
Especially with Betsy Palmer. Sorry, with Mrs. Voorhees and Alice. Their fight is some of the worst choreographed and edited fight scene ever seen.
It's hilarious. It is absolutely hilarious.
Yeah.
And the moment, I'll tell you what is a great moment. It's just maybe a 2-second shot. It's the moment when Alice picks up the machete and it goes into slow-mo.
Oh, yeah.
She goes to cut her head off, right? Just that moment alone, the way the score went and everything, brilliant.
Although
what doesn't hold up is this scene here.
Yeah.
Mr. Hairy Knuckles, by the way. Mr. Voorhees had probably some hair.
And she was apparently a footballer player because she's got one of the trophy, the Heisman Trophy wearing. So
the other thing you couldn't see in that picture because it wasn't high def, but if you watch it in high def, you can see toothpicks sticking out of the head.
Oh my god!
To hold the fake head.
Wow!
And if you also notice, when she hits the head, she hits it this side, but the head pops out.
Yeah, the other way.
You know, it's a pop top head. That's all.
Yeah, it's a pop top head. So, what my favorite scene is, I went back and went, ugh, that doesn't hold up.
The thing that gets me about that scene. The
No.
thing that gets me about that scene is whenever Alice picks up the machete and is running towards her, and Miss Voorhees kind of looks at the camera and goes, that reminds me of that scene from Austin Powers where that guy is about to get run over by the steamroller, and he's just going, no! And
That's definitely a reference to stuff like that.
He could have Pamela could have just gotten up and walked away.
Yeah.
But no, she was,
Hey, for all the cheesiness in that, for all the cheesies, let's face it, Betsy Palmer is MVP in this movie.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
She's the best
Even if her character came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Just
look at her, like,
I'm
kill her, mummy.
Gosh,
kill her.
Kill
like,
mommy,
that holds up. Her performance as playing a psychotic mother, I don't care what anyone says, she comes off batshit crazy even today in that film.
Yeah.
So great performance. Let's talk about some of the other kills in this. Personal favorite of mine, axe to the head.
Oh,
love the axe to the head.
That was
a great
that was good.
Effect.
My favorite though was the arrow through the neck.
Yeah, the Kevin Bacon.
Yes. Here we go.
He almost choked
now
on
I've got
it,
a little bit of trivia about this one for you.
Kevin Bacon with
as
the
we
butter
know,
neck.
the master Tom Savini was actually the special effects guy for this.
Yes, he was.
Now in that scene in particular, as you can see, they put his head. You can actually see it here. It's so obvious. That's a rubber from his neck down, from the top, bottom of his jawline down. That's all.
That's why he put his shirt on before he got killed, is so they would hide it better.
Yeah. So Tom Savini had a pump, right? So they put the arrow through, and he's got a pump with the nozzle, and he's supposed to pump this sheep's blood, spurting out. That's the effect, right? The problem is the pump didn't work.
Nope.
So they shoot the scene. They go cut. Tom Savini gets up and he's just covered in sheep's blood, spitting out sheep's blood.
And then he kills everyone with his telepathy.
Yeah. And they go, what happened, Tom? And he goes, well, the pump didn't work. Bloodstone everywhere. So I put the hose in my mouth. So he's got sheep's blood in his mouth. And he's physically blowing through a tube
dedication.
the blood that is spurting on Kevin Bacon on there.
That's dedication.
That is amazing. I didn't know the depth of that.
That's why Tom Savini, he's the man, and always
the man.
Yeah.
The man,
that was a great. You know why that kill works too, Jason? It's because they twist it.
Yes.
It makes that worse.
It bothers me, honestly. Watching it bothered me because you can see the suffering.
Yeah.
Axe to the head was great, but the suffering sells it. And I don't know, there's a bit of sadism whenever it comes to loving these kind of movies.
And could you?
Yeah, you have to. And some of the weaker kills are still pretty good. I mean, this one here is a pretty weak kill.
Yeah, the fake neck on her
a few frames later, she does move her neck, and that wound does open up pretty well. So it wasn't just a paint-on thing. It was that whole rubber aesthetic. So, and you got to remember, 1980, the audience wasn't used to this amount of gore.
Yes.
This is a very gory film for 1980. So all those kills that we see in the film, and there ain't 13 kills, by the way. So if you think, Friday the 13th, there must be, no, there's not. There's about 8 or 9, I think.
Yeah, it was very. Yeah.
Well, that's false advertising.
It doesn't say Friday the 13th kill.
If you see the trailer, the promo trailer for this show,
they
actually go 1, 2,
3, 4, 6. 6, what?
Yeah. There are people in that don't die, or have nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
Well, you never know. I mean, the way this movie's shot, you never know how many people the cameraman actually killed. Here's my impression of Friday the 13th. Hold on. Oh, hey, it's you.
That is so true, especially for the owner.
Yeah.
Is that the first time in the film that we get the sense that this people know this killer?
Yeah.
Well, no, that's not true from the opening scene. When the 1958.
Oh, it's you.
Oh, yeah, we weren't doing anything. We were just messing around.
Right.
So, yeah. So, Yeah, no, look, what can I say? Like, some of the kills were good for its time, but yeah, it starts to really lose me. The Jason thing bothers me a lot at the end because it doesn't make the problem is okay. The kid dove under the water, found Alice, pulled her down. The problem I have with it is the shot afterwards. They finished the film on the shot of the lake with little bubbles coming up, implying Jason's Aquaman.
Well,
are they implying that he drowned her?
No, because here's the
She's
problem.
in the sequel.
They cut her in the hospital, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
you're
right.
Yeah, mind you, she's not worried about the trauma of all her friends being executed.
Oh, my friends are dead. Anyway, they
she's
almost
not
drowned
worried
me.
about anything else. She's going, the boy, he's still out there.
Did you see that ugly kid? Oh my god!
Hey, you guys!
Yeah, he appeared 4 years later in the Goonies. No, but essentially that's my problem with it. You know, it's just like, what are you implying at the end of it? And they just
did it for the jump scare. That's all it was.
For the jump scare,
yeah.
You know, they had to retroactively fix some of this stuff, which we'll talk about in the future installments. But yeah, I mean, overall, rewatching it, I think that's probably the last time I would rewatch this film for a long time.
Yeah, until my
nostalgia for this movie is very powerful, and I think the more I watch it in modern time, it's diluting that. So
yeah.
No, absolutely.
My biggest problem with the ending was just that Pamela Voorhees literally just shows up with no setup,
right?
Just to be the killer, right. Basically.
Well,
I would have enjoyed it more if her character had been established before that.
Well, wasn't she driving the girl in though?
Yes.
Yeah, she's the one that drove the girl in.
If you notice, it was the same Jeep.
Yes, actually, if you notice, all the characters drive the same Jeep. Because they couldn't afford any other vehicles.
Even the owner. Yeah, they probably just redressed the Jeep in a way.
Oh, yeah. They took the canvas top off.
Yeah.
That was redressing the same Jeep that everybody drove. So anybody could have been the killer, really.
But that scene where Anne gets picked up by Mrs. Voorhees, like the red flag should have been there immediately because she was driving like a madman.
Yeah. I was like, wow, this lady's out, man. She's really a hell of a driver. Yeah. She should be in Drive Part 3. You know?
Yeah. But, you know, poor Anne, she's scared. She has balls enough to jump out of the car, right? Mm-hmm. She's hurt herself. She runs into the woods for about 30 meters. She goes, I give up.
Yeah, well, you know, she was tired.
You know how hard it is to run in the woods? You know how hard it is to run? Oh, God.
I know exactly how hard it is to run. That's why I don't do it.
Yeah, I gave up on running.
There you go. So we brought up our memories and thoughts of it. And, you know, we've said some things we liked, some things other than like, but we're going to sell this. Why should somebody...
If you're into movies...
You're going to see this. Why should they go see this?
You know why they should go see this? Because this is the OG originator of the ultimate villain. This is the way... This is the pave maker of the way of the film setup in the 1980s. This is the trendsetter. Yes, Michael Myers was there in the 70s, but Michael Myers didn't have the je ne sais quoi that Jason had.
At that time, there was no
speak Spanish.
It was just the shape, remember?
That's right. It was the shape, yeah.
It wasn't until a year later that we started getting a bit more
his name,
into that stuff. You're right, Joe, 100%. It basically was it rode the biggest wave of a whole subgenre in horror. And that's the slasher film.
Yeah.
You know? And it dominated for almost a decade.
Exactly. Not only that, I don't know about you guys, but the version that I watched on streaming service, the voices were not matching the movements of the actors.
I think you just had a bad connection, dude. Because I actually watched it last night. I had no problem.
Wow. So just maybe maybe I need better.
It's just an internet provider, I suspect.
But the other thing is, you get your first look at Kevin Bacon shirtless. That's always a fun fact.
Mm-hmm.
And there's actually
more.
Yeah, and there's actually a real kill on this movie. Did you guys?
Yes, I did, and I'm a bit disturbed by that. That was probably I've gone back and forward on that. I'm glad you brought it up, Joe. You're talking about the snake.
Yeah, the snake. The snake in
was
the
that
cabin.
Necessary to show the shot of it being literally cut in half? Because that looked like a pretty real snake to me.
It was. That was a real snake killed on camera. This is one of those things.
Yeah, I was not impressed by that, and it bothered me. In fact, out of all that movie, all the murder and everything, that was the one scene that bothered me.
Because it's real.
You're one of those people who gets mad if they kill the dog. They can kill like 20 people, just don't hurt the dog.
Yeah, that's me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The whole John Wick franchise is built upon killing a puppy.
Yeah.
Which, you know, I'm the same way, especially since I thought the scene was so unnecessary. It was just more fluff and filler and another skit to try to make people laugh. You could have taken it out of the movie. It wouldn't have mattered. So, yeah, it's just.
So the other reason why I say it is because technically this is a snuff film.
Oh, yeah.
Good one, Joe. Thanks for that. We're trying to sell people to go and see it, and you just ordered the stuff.
Wait, nobody wants to watch snuff.
Completely destroying the segment and the idea of it.
No, come on.
No, go
Hello,
see
police.
it because it is.
You're gonna read my VHS collection.
Yeah, look, it is a classic. Right?
It is.
It's definitely a classic. And if you're going to go back and watch a film from 40 years ago, you are going to expect things to be a little bit different. It's going to be out of place in time with our morals, our ideas, and whatever. But it is, again, a very important movie in the history of slasher movies. So if you are interested in horror slasher movies and you haven't seen this, you're going to go see it, right, Chase?
Yes. Yes. Listen, if you're a Trekkie, you watch Star Trek The Motion Picture.
Yeah.
If you're a horror fanatic, you watch Friday the 13th.
The first one.
It's not a good movie. I'm going to say that right now. And I'm a huge fan of this entire series. Friday the 13th, the first one, is hands down my least favorite movie because it lacks a lot of the fun. It's a very unfocused movie. And as I said, the killer just pops up out of nowhere just to be the killer. But at the same time, I got a certain amount of fondness for it as well because, you know, it was part of my childhood. It was part of growing up, and it did kickstart one of my favorite things in the world. So I've got respect for this movie, even though I don't think it's that great. And I do think that everybody who likes, you know, the cheesy horror slasher movies of the 80s and 90s, they should give this one a look at least once.
Absolutely.
You know, this film actually becomes better the further you go into the series, though, because there are little nuggets in this film that do pay off throughout the series. So it you know, there's especially, do you remember what I'm talking about, Jason? There's a headstone in a certain film where we actually get to see Mrs. Voorhees' first name. That doesn't happen.
Yes. That's where Pamela comes from. Yes.
Yeah.
Is that film 4 or 6?
I
One
don't
of the two.
recall.
I
we'll have to find out.
There are nuggets in this film that do pay off. So, in a way, even though it's not, it is an important. If you're into Friday the 13th, you've got to see it because it's like, it's really like watching or reading any book, but not reading the first chapter. You
gotta watch it.
Yes.
To establish what's going on.
Not only that, but the blue sweater that she's wearing in this film is also in Freddy vs. Jason.
Yes.
Decades later. So I thought that was a really nice throw.
Yeah, and they really honor in that film Freddy vs. Jason. They really honor Friday the 13th quite well.
Yeah, they do. They really do.
No doubt about it. So, well, that was it, guys. We've talked about Friday the 13th, the first movie. It's known now as Friday the 13th Part 1, but screw that Part 1 garbage.
No.
Friday the 13th.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I tell you what, guys, before we get on to our next segment, we're going to establish the fact that every month from now, basically to the end of the year, we're going to be looking back at every single Friday the 13th. So this time next month, we'll be doing Friday the 13th Part 2.
Yay!
The potato sack years.
The potato
sack years.
Yeah.
The development of some shoulder issues.
Yeah.
Years. I also put that because I love the killer how she attacks him at the end. Spoilers. Yeah. But yeah, we're going to go back to it. But before we do that, this is a show that runs every 2 weeks, guys. So you'll be able to catch us every fortnight. We're going to be moving into the next segment, which I call
The Randomizer 2000.
The Randomizer 2000.
We call it 2000 because that's futuristic.
Exactly. Now, the concept of this is simple. To watch the next film, we haven't chosen a film. But what we did do, Jason, I think we did this about 3 weeks ago, we got in this really weird tear Well, we started talking about the show and some of the movies we wanted to do. So we started sending back, little movie posters, some of the films we love.
You sent me a spreadsheet, and I
filled that basically what happens here.
And then I added one film.
Jason comes in and fills in what is essentially about 178 movies here. All in different categories, from horror, comedy, science fiction, action, drama, animated, and family. We have these films, and we've only just scratched the surface, let's be honest. So how do we choose our next film? Well, that, of course, is the Randomizer 2000. And this is used by willofnames.com. It's a great random website. So the reason we're using willofnames.com, so no one can accuse us for setting this up. Nope, it's fair and equitable in the way. So how this is going to work, guys, we're just about to spin the genre wheel. And it's got all our different genres of movies on there. And then from there, once we've selected our genre, we'll move into that category and select a film from there. So let's get started. Everyone ready?
We're ready.
Wait, I have to tie my shoes.
Here we go. Where it lands, nobody knows.
No whammies.
We, by the looks of it, guys, let's make it official.
Action.
We are moving into the action genre.
Nice.
Which is wonderful. So let's bring up our action categories.
Wow.
Look at that cheese. Look at that cheese.
Look at all this stuff here, guys.
Oh, man, I really hope The Last Dragon is
We put in Samurai Cop, by the way. Excellent choice.
Wow.
From Running Man to Jewel of the Nile. Which
Running Man was fantastic. Hey, Lighthead. Hey, Christmas tree.
So here we go, Jace. We're now spinning the wheel to find out what action film we'll be talking about.
The suspense is...
It's
the suspense can be bottled and sold. I just love it.
Yes, I love it. Let's do it. The tension.
And then it slows down.
Oh my God. Aitor, the Flying Eagle.
Oh, I've never even saw it.
The Fighting Eagle. Okay. Aitor, the Fighting Eagle, not Flighting Eagle.
All right, the Fighting Eagle. Okay, well...
I have actually not seen this one. I had this one recommended to me. So I have not seen this one either.
Let's get into the old Google and let's find out what this
To the Googles!
To the Googles! Aitor. It's just called Aitor. All right, well...
No, down below. Down. Yeah,
no,
Aitor
here we go.
the Fighting Eagle.
Here. Aitor the Fighting Eagle.
It looks like very
This is
crawlish.
a 1982 Italian adventure fantasy film.
Wow.
Well, this should have probably been in the fantasy genre. But nevertheless...
Our genres are so crossed.
They're so crossed. So, believe it or not...
It went in action because it had the word fighting in it.
Yes. Well, here we go, guys. We're watching next fortnight, Aitor the Fighting Eagle.
A 3.2 on IMDb and a 1.8 on Letterboxd.
All right, so we're in for a treat, guys. We're in for a treat.
And in case you would like to join us, it is currently streaming free on Pluto TV.
Wow.
Wonderful. There we go. So you'll be able to watch it. And that's the other thing, guys. As you see the list that we've just brought up, we would like you, the audience, to help contribute to that. So with the help of Joe, we're going to post up our lists in social media at some point. Yeah. And we invite you guys to be able to come and have a look at the list and send me and Jason on our Twitter, on our TikTok, and I'll bring up those details in a minute, and send us some suggestions of films that you would like us to talk about on the VHS Vault. So we'd love to add more films to the list. Hell, if we're watching Aitor the Fighting Eagle, we'll watch anything, clearly.
Yeah, seriously.
So that is it, guys.
Good luck on that one, guys.
You're gonna bail.
Yeah, Joe had
dishonor your house.
Can I be on that show? He's like, I'm out of this one.
Yeah, I do the horror. Well, let me know when you get to the next horror movie. Bang, bang, bang.
Well, this might be a horror film for a whole nother reason.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true.
But to connect with us, to send us stuff, you can find me, Jason, and Joe, one of the massive contributors to Spectrum Sanctorum, known as Captain Dove, over in our Star Trek section. You can follow him at DisDungeonCQ.
Yes.
You can follow myself at VHS_Jace. And of course, you can find Jason at Jason Roy Gaston, who feels no need to come up with some quippy username tag. It keeps it real.
You have seen what I call myself on every one of these podcasts, right?
Yeah.
I have a new name on each one of these.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's it, guys. We thank you so much for joining and watching our first inaugural episode of the VHS Vault. Again, please like what you've seen, subscribe. It's not a big deal for you, but it's a big deal for us, and I'll keep this little shindig going for a while. Thank you again. We will see you all on the next episode of, what are we going to call it, guys? The VHS Vault.
VHS Vault.
See ya.